Look, I've been reading this paper because I got to stay I got a headache trying to stay on course, so just let me go off this paper for a minute. Before y'all start calling my radio show and DMing me, talking about why you ain't asked no hard-hitting questions, that ain't what this is. I'm throwing a lob. This is an alley-oop for a dunk. Because this administration needs to get the word out of what they're actually doing and what they're actually accomplishing, so we can stop all this foolishness about what you're doing for black people. Can't nobody come out with no agenda and call it this for black people and expect to get in the White House. You got to play the game different. Y'all know what this is. So now this next question is another lob for her to dump. Because they have done a lot, man. But we see, I'm on this radio show, and I'm hearing all these people talking about, I'm not voting if they're not doing nothing for us. Listen to me. If you do not vote, the analytics will show. They know how many women vote, they know the age you are when you vote. If we don't vote, how we going to ask for something next time? If you ain't got no voting power, you talk about reparations. Ain't nobody finna give you no reparations and you don't vote. Well, you think they finna give us some money? No, man. I hope they do. They owe us. I'll go down there. I'm sorry.
In an 8-1 ruling, the Oklahoma State Supreme Court upheld the decision made by a Tulsa district judge last year. That ruling said the Tulsa Race Massacre survivors' grievances, although legitimate, did not qualify for reparations.
If they were going to do reparation the easy way, it would have already been done.
Our partner station in Tulsa spoke with Willie Sells, owner of T's Barbershop, the longest-standing business on Black Wall Street since its rebirth.
Those people that were here suffered a terrible loss, and I think it's affected the city down through the years.
It's estimated up to 300 black Tulsans were killed, and over 30 blocks of the city were devastated by a white mob in 1921. The few living survivors sued the city of Tulsa and others in 2020, seeking reparations for the trauma they lived through. The city and insurance companies never compensated victims for their losses, and the massacre ultimately resulted in racial and economic disparities that still exist today, the lawsuit argued.
We're hoping and trusting and praying that the city, the state, or somebody in Oklahoma would give reparation to those survivors.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, here again on this reparations conversation. So if you haven't been in certain spaces online within the last week, you probably don't know what's going on, but you know now because you're just in the clip at the beginning. But Steve Harvey has gone viral within a lot of spaces on social media for his comments of basically saying no votes, no reparations, and stop expecting something for your vote. And that's a conversation those are statements Steve Harvey made in a conversation with Kamala Harris that was aired. And, it set the internet on fire. Steve was trending for a while, with the mustache. And so I just thought it was interesting, once again, like, I know a lot of people think, because I see the comments, a lot of people think we're anti-Democrat. Now, we're just anti-bullshit. And it don't matter who it's coming from. But it's another attempt by, the Democrats to secure votes. All in all, our message is vote the issues, vote for the people that make the best sense for you, that give you the best outcome. Don't just vote for somebody because your emotions are being appealed to, or that's the wave that everybody else is voting. Vote for the person that make the best sense for you and your community. But I do think it's the stuff that was coming out of Steve Harvey's mouth, and he felt like he was saying something to black people. We're not supposed to get anything for our vote, and we're not supposed to expect somebody to have the black people's best interest and have that as their platform and be out in the open with it as their platform to get voted in. Of course, you know, he's talking to Kamala Harris, who, when the Biden administration was running in 2020, she said that she wasn't going to do anything specific for black people, and black people still voted them in.
The reality also is this: any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country.
So what are we doing? So I'm going to start with you, Pat. Hey, man, you heard the clip, and then it was followed by the some of the, I guess, descendants or survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre who did not get the reparations that they were going for. So what are your thoughts on both clips and just like the state of the reparations conversation now?
As I've gotten older, and you know, we've been having this reparations conversation for decades, damn near a century. Probably, actually, it's been longer than a century. For me, the conversation shifts to utility. First realism, then utility. Realism, I don't believe reparations is ever going to come. And if they do come, it's going to be such a way that they aren't going to serve any real utility. Mm-hmm. I think the history of what we've learned for the way America does business with people that is wrong, particularly black people that is wrong, has showcased us that. I think that our so the whole conversation for me just becomes an exercise in intellectual masturbation, which is fine. Every once in a while, you got to rub one out. But you know, if we trying to have a deep, meaningful discussion, and somebody brings up reparation, well, the deep and the meaningful just evacuated the premises for me. So, as far as what he said, the only thing he said that I agree with is that, you know, you do got to play the game the way it's played. Black people, until we become an aggregate voter bloc that can't be predetermined to vote a certain way, there aren't going to be any legislative actions or any politicians specifically with platforms for black people, because they already know black people are going to vote Democratic. Mm-hmm. So why even bother? And with that being said, you know, you approach it from that angle, but the other angle for me is, why are we still looking for a candidate to show up and give us something when we should be working to create candidates and create policy that any candidate can endorse? So if his assertion elsewhere in the clip was that you shouldn't expect anything for your vote, well, I strongly disagree with that. Like that defeats the whole purpose of voting. The whole point of the system is that you get something for your vote. Your vote is your political currency. So if you're telling me to spend my political currency for nothing, well then, you shouldn't be a part of the conversation.
And he's saying that specifically to black people, remember, as well.
Yes. So that's Kamala Harris is a politician. And now one thing I can appreciate is him addressing up front, these are softball questions.
Yeah.
I can always appreciate somebody stating their intentions.
Yeah.
So now we don't have to get bogged down in the conversation about his intentions. He made it clear. All right, we can clear that hurdle. Let's get to the meat of it.
Well, hey, PC, you know, this is funny. This is funny to me. Steve Harvey once again flexing this
mustache.
I guess his mustache and his comedic muscles, but also his, I guess, influence, as you would say. Because you see in the suit, man, that mean he important. So you got to listen to him. And he wrote books. He told women to think like a man, so you gotta listen to him. But his comments, no votes, no reparations. What are you getting for your vote? Why you worry about what you're getting for your vote? Vote anyway, because if you don't vote, you're not gonna have a voice. And if you don't have a voice, you can't get reparations. What are your thoughts on that, as well as the information that was in the clip with the Tulsa riots?
Yeah, that's it. No, you know, black people, Malcolm X said a few things. One thing he said is that we should not have entertainers doing our bidding in political arenas.
People ain't listening. You know
what I'm saying? So the fact that you got Steve Harvey, an entertainer, interjecting, into politics as a, when you do that, you make yourself a pseudo leader of the community. Right. And so because he's not going to do anything that challenges, the status quo, he's going to be publicized. He's going to be pushed by other entities that, his lack thereof of a message serves. So, but this is similar to Hillary Clinton going to the Breakfast Club and talking about having hot sauce in her purse. You know what I'm saying? Or showing up, dancing the jig with Roland Martin. This is, nobody really respects black people politically because we're political chumps. And because of that, you get this, chitlin circuit of politicians going around to these entertainers and trying to espouse upon their what they're not going to do for black people and what they don't have to do for black people. And that's why you can have a comedian there, because he can make jokes about the fact that they're not going to do shit for us. And they're not going to ask them to do anything for us. I was going to say something about, because you see it come out of his mouth. I was going to make an off-color comment, but I'm trying to be more reserved about things, because I could have went there. That was a real good opening. Didn't he tell Monique a few years ago that she has to play the game? Mm-hmm. That she has to swallow her pride. And now I'm gonna go there. What have you been swallowing, Steve? You know what I'm saying? So, and it's to the point where, man, I just don't care about these dudes, man. I don't, man. Steve, stick to the strawberry letters. Stick to all that. And I feel like, because this is the shut up and dribble. Like, yes. When the woman said that to LeBron James, it was racially motivated, but it did have some credence to it, because this ain't your lane. And if you want to be an activist for something, which with entertainers can be, that's one thing. But to think you want to determine policy, you don't have enough. Gus, you have not done enough study research. You have not spent enough time in that arena to do that, and it's dangerous. Yeah. Because black people are like children when it comes to politics. Emotional, political chumps that operate from a place of emotional bullies. So no matter what facts you put in front of these Negroes, the thing is, emotionally speaking, they cannot get over the fact that they're terrified of white folk and what they will and how they will be empowered if Donald Trump wins the election.
Well,
so this is what we hear. This is. So when you start talking, black people need to be honest about something. Yeah, it's cool and all this other stuff about how they're not scared of nobody. Black people are terrified of white people, especially when white folk get mad. You know what I'm saying? And we've all had conversations, even on this show, about how black people, when white folk get mad, black people get terrified. They go out of their way to start trying to calm them down. I've seen black people cover and protect white supremacists at rallies when they were attacking black people. You know what I'm saying? So you get back to this whole concept of the notion of our votes, this and the other. voting is only one small aspect of being being part of the political process. In fact, in many cases, if you're not organized, it's the least valuable thing you can do, because your vote doesn't matter unless it's aggregated. And so, because black people want to be ruggedly individual and can't, well, therefore, what is the purpose of your vote? And then you all fall under this thing where you don't take the time out to learn politics, policy, so forth. You don't take the time out to understand the civic process of government, and therefore you don't understand the process of how lobbies work, and you don't understand how money means more than votes. But if you don't have the money, the least you can do is aggregate your votes, and then maybe if we all put $1 together, maybe we can have a critical thinking tank, a think tank that will discuss valuable issues that black people need. Black people are just jumping on this reparations train. And while we deserve reparations, I'll never say we don't, you cannot get reparations unless you have an ability to leverage somebody. And you can't leverage anybody because no any other tell them what to do. And because I'm sorry, what?
Vote.
Vote for what?
That's what Steve said.
Man, listen. and because you said something earlier, Joe, I totally disagree with. You said we don't hate the Democrats, but I hate both of them. I hate the Democrats, I hate the Republicans. I hate this false, this illusion of having choice.
Well, yeah, you do.
That's put in front of us. I hate it. And I hate the fact that we go for it. You pick a topic to debate on that has nothing to do with the issues in your community. I don't give a damn about pancakes, but we're going to have a topic about whether you want flapjacks or you want stacks.
Whole cakes.
You know what I'm saying? Well, me too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they do.
Man.
So in this regard, to say you're not going to ask Kamala Harris any tough questions, you're not qualified to ask her questions. Why don't once we did have TV One, we don't have that shit no more. But we used to have political shows, even if it was run by somebody like Roland Martin. At least that's the arena to have those conversations, not in show where you're entertaining everybody and pandering for an hour and a half or so. It just doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? White politicians are not going around to Conan O'Brien to have a serious conversation. They're going to CNN, they're on MSNBC, they're at town halls and things of that nature. So that's how that just shows the lack of respect politically that anybody has for black people. But it's our fault because we want to remain in that place.
Yeah. Hey, remember last election cycle when Ebony K. Williams told black men to get in line? Stop trying to.
Yeah, that wasn't her. That was
that wasn't her. Who was that?
Tiffany Cross.
Tiffany Cross.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. My bad, Ebony K. My bad. Tiffany Cross.
Yeah, we got enough for Ebony K, but this one she get a pass. Yeah, that's Tiffany Cross.
And I think Roland made a really legitimate point here. I will say, a lot of black men sometimes feel like they're ignored or they're put down, particularly sometimes even by black women in the media. So this is not that. But I do hear Roland's point that felt ignored. But you feel ignored and then you go over to the other side. The oppressed feel oppressed. So then you go and try to align with the oppressor. So I'm not putting black men down, but sometimes it's like, well, some of you Kevin Samuels following Tariq Nasheed quoting people, please look at the truth and see what's happening and get in line with some of the black women. Is majority, like he said, vote Democrat, but that margin of people who can be plucked away from your people and go advance policies that harm your people, I just don't understand that.
Yeah, her breath.
By the way, lost her job because she started believing that she was bigger than she was and went on to Charlemagne's show and started talking crazy about Florida. Next thing you know, laughs, giggles, and jokes. She was fired 2 days later.
Hey, man. But it's to me, it gets back to my mindset. My individual mindset is, who the hell you think you're talking to? But I know once both of you said it, it's the lack of respect that everyone has for Black America. And they already know that most people gonna like Tiffany Cross told them to get in line. But the Democrats are afraid that more and more black people will go over to the Republican side or just not even be Democratic at all. So they are scratching and scraping and scrambling, trying to make sure they can keep as many people within that Democratic sector as possible. But
well, wait 1 second right there, Joe, because that in itself is another form of false flag propaganda BS. Because nobody's leaving the Democrats to go to the Republicans. They're just abstaining from voting.
I know, but that's like you said, yeah, exactly like you said. That's the false flagging as far as saying that we don't want you to go to the Republican Party, as if the Republican Party is the only other option. So yeah.
I mean, you can vote for me. I'll put myself on the ballot.
And write your name in.
That does speak to the great, and this is why I say the Republicans and the Democrats are actually playing the same game, which is why it's funny. The Democrats are really just mad because the Republicans play it better.
I'm just saying.
They both use fear-based politics to control minority groups.
But hey,
neither one of them are actually talking about doing anything constructive. The Democrats are saying if you don't vote for us,
you're not gonna get
the Republicans are gonna put you back in chains.
Yeah, you ain't gonna never get reparations.
That's their whole argument. Meanwhile, the Republicans are saying, fuck you niggas, you can vote for us if you want to, but the Democrats ain't doing shit for you, so you might as well come vote for us.
And if you don't put us in power, they gonna liberalize the whole country and make it all soft. So what you want? You want your country to go to shit?
We want our firearms.
So it becomes this whole thing where ain't nobody really doing anything for you.
Right, but it's just the messages that are being put out and the way that they're being put out to us. But like both of you said, about the aspect of the entertainers being the main ones that especially the Democratic Party like to go to within Black America to say, hey, these are the people we're going to talk to about politics, and these are the people that we're going to use to push the political agendas and get the people to spur behind, because we know how people feel about the entertainers. We know how they feel about their athletes and their politicians or their athletes. So it's just like, God damn, like Black America, we keep falling for it, because remember last election cycle, and even the one before that, when Black people were mad about the messages, like those rap videos and all those different things that they was putting out, get your booty to the poll and all those different things. But it's the same thing. It's just an updated version for this election cycle. It's, I'm going to shame you, or I'm going to scare tactic you into voting this way, or scare you and shame you or scare tactic you into voting this way. Because for one, we know you have no real agenda, no united agenda. We know you don't have that. We know you're fractioned as a people. Now we know most of you are going to vote Democrat, but Republicans, if we can purge some of you off, if we can get some of you off, we're going to be good. But all in all, either way, still going back to what Steve Harvey was saying, either way, voting is not the way to get reparations. Voting, no, but that's once again that is mixed into it with the scare tactic, because you don't want to be on the plantation and you want your reparations. So to get that, you have to vote this way, because this is the only way you're going to get your reparations.
Man, they got panels everywhere. It's funny, right? I don't recall like the need for all of these studies and all of these different panels and discussions for reparations for when it came to the Holocaust survivors, when it came to the Japanese people who was in internment camps here in World War II. I don't recall none of it, but the hoops they made Black people jump through to get things that's like, like you going to erase it from history books, so children of the next few generations won't even be able to acknowledge that it happened. And we do a poor job at teaching our children that it happened. So when you think about it, and I'm glad you put that clip up of what happened in Tulsa, Johnny Cochran was the man that was actually preparing the dockets for the legal fight for the reparations of the Tulsa massacre and so forth, and the burning down of Black Wall Street. And he suspiciously died from an aneurysm, which is amazing, because there's a lot of brothers that unfortunately, a lot of people period who mysteriously die from aneurysms when they're on the cusp of something controversial. But this whole notion that, first and foremost, the reason why America has a military is because America doesn't play fair.
Right.
And so it's like, man, China like $300 trillion, and like, we kind of dare y'all to make us pay it. You know what I'm saying? The way they operate here legally, Black people have never been treated fairly. So what do you think? Like, who are you holding this mirror up to? You keep appearing to the heartstrings and the souls of a soulless, entity. It does not want Black people. Like, America was not designed for Black people to come up, be treated fairly. It wasn't even really designed for us to survive. In fact, Abraham Lincoln, who is the great emancipator, Abraham Lincoln didn't even want Black people here. They started setting up ships. They were sending Black people all over the world. They were sending Black people to Haiti. They created Liberia, in Africa for Black people to repatriate or go back home, basically to get the of America. So what makes you think the legal system is going to work? You can have all the evidence lined up, but when it goes behind a closed door, the jury of not your peers has to make a decision. Or the judge, who does not look like you, or even the one that does look like you, does not answer to you.
Hey,
you got to have leverage. I say, hey, man, let's do them like J. Edgar Hoover.
But
I'm successful for that with like 30 years.
To your point that America doesn't play fair, you made me think about this video I saw earlier. I was on my way to an event, and I decided to watch this video. And I forgot the YouTube channel I was watching, but it was a Black guy, and he was using this white woman's lecture to hammer home the points about what systematic racism is. And as I'm listening to her talk, she's talking about all the unfair things that have happened, and the disparities, and the wage gaps, and all these different things, education gaps, and the advantages that white people have, the privileges that white people have. For one, my first thought is, all right, well, we got another white woman trying to act like they ain't a part of it, because she was specific to say cis white male racism, as if white women had nothing to do with the enslavement and the continued oppression of Black people. Like, white women just scot free. So you put shit on that because you're just trying to point this just on white men. Y'all are the same complicit, right? But then, as she's talking, my mindset is, well, the disadvantages and the advantages for white America exist for a reason. They took it. They fought for it. They literally fought for it, and they won, and they took it. That's how you get the advantages. Like, they didn't get the advantages because they had the best emotional plea to the human, to people in America. No, they took it by force, and the only way to counter that is force. And so you are not giving us tangible things that we could do to help us really get out of this system. And I'm saying that because the Black guy put that video up for Black people, so it's not really helping us. Now, this white woman was in the room talking to white people, and her attempt was to wake white people up. Do your thing with the white folk. But for us, it's not going to help us, because that's not something that's going to help us build power. And I'm saying all that to say, power is what, like PC said earlier, power is what going to help us get reparations. If we would ever get it, we would get it because we're a powerful group of people, and we're respected, and it will be consequences if we don't get reparations. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, they're not going to come just because we beg for them or we appeal to people or we try to sue for them or even if we vote. You have to have power to back that up.
No matter how dirty Steve Harvey knees get, they're not going to do that shit.
Hey,
but
mustache too.
And it's something that you were saying, wow, you know, and I wanted to drive this point home too. We need to be, because black people are bad, we're bad stewards of history. So even if, you know, like the reparations, and I give shout out to the people who actually have some, you know, historical knowledge. Like Tariq Nasheed, he's been pushing it hard in California, and there's been some other people pushing it. But one thing I'll say is, being bad stewards of history, we don't really think about like the times when we were supposed to get some stuff, like the whole Brown versus the Board of Education. There were like 3 different cases that could have been brought forth, but that was the weakest one, and that was the one that the NAACP decided to champion because they realized it wouldn't upset the apple cart. That was the weakest one. The original 2, if I'm not mistaken, actually had some plans for reparations involved. Also, affirmative action was supposed to be a form of reparations for black people, but it got cold. It got between that and the Civil Rights Bill that got passed in the 60s. There were addendums added to it, changes made to make white women, as you spoke earlier, make white women minorities. That's why the word minorities is put in there, and to use terms of people of color, which meant we can circumvent black people by just making sure these groups get all the access and the goodies that supposedly come from this legislation. And if we're not careful, that's the same shit that would happen if, per se, we were able to give reparations. Because if you do a genetic survey for people, most people got African blood. Most people in this country have some type of, and I'm not saying I'm saying people should think about that. You know what I'm saying? That in terms of making sure, if you want to do it, safe cap it. So that, you know, you can test your lineage or whatever, however you want to do it. But those are some of the things that we need to take into consideration, because like you said, we need the leverage and we need the power, but we also need to make sure we don't get backdoored on this if it does go through.
And that's another reason why I said it's look, we see the way what they did with the 5% Indians and all that other shit, like
$5 Indians.
Yeah, $5 Indians, right? Like, and at this point, black people and white people are so entwined that if we were to pass something, it's either there are going to be a number of black people that don't have access to it because they don't meet the requirements that are set up, which is going to piss people off, or there's going to be a large percentage of non-black people that have access to it because of the way that it's set up, and that's going to piss people off. Look, as a community, the best way we can maneuver to get reparations is to build our own power base, set up our own structures, and to create a world where we can be self-sufficient and self-sustaining on our own. Essentially, we got to do something that's never really been done before. We got to repair ourselves from the damage that's been done.
Yep.
We got to do like self-parations. Because you like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got to do, that's the only way black people are going to get reparations. And even if we do, like, you got to, like, even in that. So now you're talking about, okay, they give you reparations. What compromises? Now you deal with the fact that intellectually, emotionally, you've compromised with the person that did you harm in order to get something. So what does that do? What does that look like? I'll tell you what else it does, though. It assuages white guilt nationally.
Yeah, it's over.
Negroes don't understand. Yeah, I said it. You Negroes don't understand how many of y'all are sliding by on the grace of white guilt. I'm primarily looking at all of you Ivy League graduates, all of you top 500 corporation people that are in high standing. I'm not saying you didn't work to get those positions. I'm just presenting a radical view that maybe there was some white people that helped you along the way to soothe their own white guilt. There would be no Barack Obama without white guilt. White guilt is potentially the greatest ally to the black community that we have in existence. And it's just radical thoughts. That's what we do here. We present crazy narratives that may or may not be true. Okay. But it's something to think about.
So you saying our black superhero character has a knife, which is white guilt.
I'm saying our black superhero character wrote in his own book, in his own words, that he realized that he could utilize white people to get where he wanted to go because they wanted to help him. Now, and I believe he said he realized this in high school or college, one of the two.
Now, did he have to make sure he have his stuff together, and was he doing what he needed to do for himself, or did white people just come along because he was just sitting there complaining?
No, he was, and this is what I said. You got to take care of business. He was doing what he needed to do. And when the white people saw a good Negro that they could potentially use to soothe their ills, they did it. We ended up getting the first black president. Think about how many white people you know. I know a lot of white people that only voted for Obama because he was black.
Yep.
Man,
most people
racists not voting for.
Most black people did especially his first term.
Man, I heard people say after he got elected, white folk were walking up to black people like, you have no excuses now. Like that was a form of reparations.
Hey, we're in the post-racial era. That's what they told us. We're in the post-racial era.
When I hear the reparation conversations, I'm like, we're not thinking this through. It's one thing so I think, can we get reparations for specific harms, like in Philadelphia with the move situation? Can those people in that community get reparations, and should they? Yes. That's a specific incident, a very narrow situation. They should get reparations for that. Various other communities, could they? Yes, they could, they should. As a whole, should black people in America get reparations? Yes, we should, but is it possible? No. Is it realistic? No. And will we lose more than we gain from it? Yes.
Well, I mean, but realistically, like numbers wise, though, when you really look at the amount that they actually would really owe us, America don't have it.
And it takes me to a movie that I saw and a book. I plan on reading this. I'm actually writing it down. Like I should just say it. But you think about reparations, and you think about like what happened to I believe I'm not sure if they were Navajo, but it was an Indian tribe, a Native American tribe. And they made they wrote a book about it called The Killers of the Flowers Moon.
Yeah.
And in that particular, instance,
I forgot the tribe name. Yeah.
Right. I think it was Navajo, but I'm not mistaken. Oh, what, Navajo? Okay. All right. All right. Cool. We do our own fact checking, y'all. I'm saying, but in that particular situation, they mandated that this is your land, you're on oil. Go ahead, Joe.
Osage Nation.
Osage, you're right, the Osage. There you go. Which ironically, Osage Avenue, that's where the Move family's house was burned down.
Yeah.
Osage Avenue here in Philadelphia. Yes. The irony. Right. So they actually made it where they had to have guardians or whatever. I forgot what they called them, but those people actually controlled the money, and they had to go to them and actually withdraw their money from these guardians who actually had control of their money. Meanwhile, the white men started off all the Native American men. Started deleting all the Native American men. And then they started marrying all the women and then poisoning them and finding different ways to off them too. So then they would then take over. Oh, they were called trustees. They would then take over the land, and they were actually able to circumvent the wealth from the Osage people. Meanwhile, deleting them all, and they took it all back. So you had they got the reparations for the land, they got the money for the land, and then within a generation, it was all back in the hands of white people.
You know what was interesting about what they displayed in the movie? The Osage women. There was a scene where they were having a conversation, like 5 of them were sitting around having a conversation, talking about how they are attracted to the white men. Mm-hmm. And they also know the white man's overall motive, but they want to explore their attractions. So they did it anyway, knowing that the white men were after their money. Mm-hmm. And that if that's not like a psychological blank job, I don't know what is. You know what I'm saying? It's like to understand that your actions will lead to your downfall, and you do it anyway.
I think a lot of these people having these conversations haven't done the necessary legwork to really understand people. Mm-hmm. Because that's my other kickback. Most of my arguments against reparations don't have anything to do with the actual policies being suggested. Most of it is centered around how we'll respond to those policies and how the nation will respond to our response. Mm-hmm. And then you don't have to be a rocket scientist. America is pretty clear cut and dry on how they do it. The nation ain't changed.
January 6th.
Like
they were going after white people that day. You can only imagine.
Right? I'm like, this ain't difficult to predict. If you sit down and read 3 or 4 books, you ain't even got to read a lot of them. Read 3 or 4 books on it, and you'll pick up the pattern. And then you could just follow the pattern, because the pattern ain't changed, because there's been no reason for the pattern to change. There's been no pressure applied to create a need to change anything. And so, like, I'm like, all right, when I look at the reparations conversation, I see a situation where I think black people end up worse off after we get reparations than we are now. And if we had the circle in the drain, stain in the toilet now.
I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
But one of the most important things you all talked about was the aggregation of wealth and the mindset and the actual actions of aggregating wealth. That will be one of the, let's say they did give reparations and we're in our current state. One of our biggest downfalls is not being aggregated. So the wealth, like it wouldn't less necessarily literally boost Black America's wealth. It'll boost the wealth of individual Black Americans, and it'll boost the spending power. But I don't know how much they would boost our
spending
overall
power
wealth.
is an illusion, though. You know that, Joe.
Well, yeah, spending power, aka how much money we actually spend.
Bruh. Good job.
It boosts the American economy.
Of course.
Like, that's why I said if I was president in the middle of a recession, I would give Black people reparations.
Bruh. Listen.
The economy would be spinning, but
bruh. They spinning, nigga. They spinning. Listen. That's the conversation that people are not willing to have. Like Black people, because Negroes' eyes are getting big, thinking they're going to get a fat check if this thing works out. But what's the first thing? Like, all you got to do, if you want to know how Black people will respond to reparations, all you got to do is look at what the wealth class of the Black community is already doing, and then you have to look at people who get nigger rich. And you see in those two things, nothing is built to sustain Black people. No institutions are being built. No foundations are being created. And I'm talking about on a scale. I ain't talking about 1 or 2 families. I'm talking about on a scale where it's community based, where it's legacy based. We don't see that. And so these conversations that nobody wants to have, you get called out for it, but at the same time, this is the reality. We've seen it. You know what I mean? Look, all the pro athletes, what is it? Broke after 50 or something. What's the shit called?
After they by the time they retired, like 5 years after they retired, they're broke.
Right. You know what I'm saying? We're not fucking Cadillac, a $1,000,001 Escalades, whatever the newest car. They will create a car. They will create a car with designed to get Negroes to go buy it. But they will put for all the purses of Europe will be sold out.
But us just getting a check is being sold short. Mm-hmm. I'm down with Dr. Anderson was saying. There need to be an equal redistribution of money, wealth, power, land, and resources. And if we ain't talking about that, you ain't really talking about. Yeah, but that's real. That's real reparations. If they're not talking about that, then we've been sold short.
The first thing he said was black people need therapy.
Yeah,
all the damage that's been done to black people, and black people are right now, like really bad. Our mindset, the way we think, the sickness of like I said, we go into situations with spirits of discontent for one another. So you put us in the room together, or you create something. The contention is going to be a lot of peacocking, a lot of henpecking, and a lot of other things because we don't even know how to get along.
Well, yeah, of course.
And that's another part of the problem with reparations is at the core of what Joe said. If you serious about it, you're talking about a redistribution of wealth and all of the things that encompass wealth, land, resources, power, all of that. And in order for you to redistribute something, those that have it have to be willing to give it up. And herein lies the essential and core failure of all reparations conversations. White people are not giving up any
over my dead body.
and they tell you, and you even got black people saying it now. The white people that enslaved you is dead. Why should I have to pay for it? That whole comment, that whole string of logic breaks the reparations conversation in any serious form or fashion.
Hey, what's funny though? You tell them, I'll take your check, because if they was actually getting, if they knew they were actually getting the check, they gonna go down and get that.
Oh, listen, and there are things like there's parts of this country that the government owns that they could just give to black people, right? But once you get it, you better really be ready to fight for it, and you better be ready to protect it, because most likely they're going to put you somewhere downstream. Well, you know what they did in Africa? You know what the colonizers did in Africa? They would go upstream and poison the water, so all the wells would make the people sick. You know what I'm saying? They would do things like salt the land so that you couldn't grow shit on it. They would do things like fly over and seed the clouds so they would flood villages out. Don't think for a second that happened here.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of it, are we going to create a power, a source of power and energy? You know what I'm saying? Are we going to create laws and are we going to have different ministries to operate the different factions, like a ministry of education, a ministry of defense, a ministry of economics, a ministry of political office and leadership? Like those things are things that nobody's taking into consideration. We just want the check.
In addition to all those things they did to make the land bad, white people have a history of giving black people or other people the worst land that they thought was the worst land, or the worst land that they did have at the time, but that land actually had some value in either having oil, or the people built the land up to make it something profitable. Then, like you say, they come and take it from them.
and create a situation where you have an earthquake, and then we'll steal all your children and ocean. We need to bring some factories to your land because apparently there's an oil, deposit right there. Oh, I'm damn. I sound like Haiti. I'm sorry.
Hey, but also like you were saying, having the guardians. So
of the galaxy. I'm sorry.
So you give these blacks or these indigenous Americans, you give them this land. They find oil on the land because there's been several stories of that. And then, like you said, with the killers of the flower moon, then have these guardians of them, and the guardians are in charge of their money and how they spend it, where they spending all these things. So it's a easy way to put you out there, get you to make it good, and take it back from you. If you build it, you must protect it. And if you don't protect it, you're gonna be sorry.
Man, listen, because that whole part about because I think they would call the guardians or trustees or whatever of the money. The crazy part about that part is they basically told the people, we don't feel as though you're responsible enough to hold your own money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the world looks at black people as black Americans as the children of the world. You know what I'm saying? So you can only imagine what would happen here and all the different loopholes people have to go through just to get their bread. You know what I'm saying? So it is, like you said, man, listen, if I hope, because I know people listen to this and think, oh, you are anti-reparations. No, they owe us that.
Yeah, we won't damn reparations. We're just realistic about what reparations is and what have to actually happen for us to get it. We're
having the adult conversations that most of the Negroes aren't qualified to have.
I mean, because I think everybody has said we're in favor of reparations. Like we deserve reparations. I said that before I said it's not realistic and it's not going to happen. But do we deserve it? Sure.
Yeah, so I'm just reiterating it because
but it's like what will make white America give up money, wealth, land, power, and resources? It's not going to be voting.
It ain't going to be black.
It's not going to be appealing to their senses or trying to make them feel bad or whatever. The black folk been doing it. That hasn't worked, and it isn't going to work because it has no power behind it.
And that's my fault. I'm thinking about the billionaire movement that I saw on TikTok a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, the lie.
Yeah,
they lied about that.
What billionaire movement?
Oh no, it was a movement where there was a financial advisor, financial market, a money broker. I forget his name. And apparently there was a tweet that went out that said that black women are for billionaires.
Oh yeah. I talked about that on one of my videos. Yeah, he didn't say that.
Nah, he actually his only response to that lady was a cease and desist to stop ruining his name. He had to explain that shit to his wife. So
right.
So that's what I meant when I said what I said. I was getting at that. But in any case, I do think the other part of the clip where they was talking to, he was talking about the lobs he want to throw up so that they can tell black people what they've done for them. I've gone to the White House website and looked at what they have listed as what they've done for black people. And it is very interesting reading. It kind of makes me want to go back into Lessons from the Screen where I would break documents like this down.
Do it.
But it makes for very interesting reading, and I encourage everybody to go look at what the White House says they've done, and then do some digging to see if these things are actually true and if they've had the impact that they're claiming that they've had. Now, I'll be up front. A lot of this stuff, which is why Steve Harvey, I think, caveated it the way he did by saying, you got to play the game. You can't make a policy just for black people. And that's because a large amount of these things are not for black people. Black people just benefited from them because a lot of these things were meant to help people that were in need. And who's more in need in America than black people outside of Native Americans? So
I'm telling you, we got their reparations through welfare.
When you don't operate as a powerful group of people, of course, they can't appeal directly to you, and when we're only 12% of the population, and we don't have power, so it doesn't make sense for them to appeal directly to the black population. For also because y'all gonna vote for the Democrats anyway, so why would they have to appeal to you? And the Republicans, once again, they don't care.
Well, what they're really talking about is black men, because black men are the only ones abstaining from voting.
Of course.
But and I want to point out something real quick too, Judge. I know you're about to wind down. Because we talk about January 6th. January 6th was the capstone of all the things that happened. Pat put me onto a book, and I read it, where it was talking about all the different things that led up to it. Not only was it January 6th, you also had plots to kidnap governors. You know what I'm saying? They actually were going around terrorizing different politicians in different areas in the country prior to that, leading up to that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those, and nobody's talking about that because, it's been quietly, discussed or therefore, ignored in the media. But, I only bring that up to say, because, and I'm going to keep saying it, black people, y'all are terrified of white folk. Because the only reason y'all are up in arms and your hair on the back of your neck is about voting for another 4 years of Jim Crow Joe is because you're terrified of what white America would do if Trump got back in office. And if you're really scared about that, you really need to think about what'll happen if he doesn't get back in office.
And I think to hammer home, because that book was a good book, and it was interesting too, because my son has particular views on politics. And PC, when he came to visit, he talked to my son. We asked him what he thought about the January 6th resurrection, and he said he from what he understands from the media sources he consumes, it was just a protest. It wasn't violent or anything like that. It was just a protest,
Right?
And all of the other details, and it made me think in that moment, like, okay, he's 19, 20 years old. I don't expect him to be knowledgeable about this stuff yet. The fact that he's interested in it is enough for me.
The Storm is Here is the book. The Storm is Here.
Yes. But what was interesting to me is the amount of grown adult 40-year-old people that have that same view. You were alive and conscious enough to know. You saw. And it's amazing because, like PC said, it was a capstone. We forget everything else around that. Even the events immediately following it, there were media reports of white people beating up black people and chasing black people around. Like, that was there. It was in the media in the days following. All of that's been lost.
Charlottesville. I just drove through Charlottesville. Yeah.
It makes you think. And what it does for me is it makes me think, if I'm watching this happen now, what is it that I think I'm well informed on that's actually like a retabulated version of what happened after all of the really bad stuff was lost?
So who's the author of The Storm is Here?
Hold on 1 second. I believe it's let me see. Luke is it
Luke Mogelson?
Yeah, Luke Mogelson, yeah.
Okay. All right.
If everybody jump on him, I've read various versions of that book from various people across the political spectrum. And they all pretty much say the same thing.
Yeah, it's several of them. It's a bunch of them. He was actually there. He was in he was actually in the fucking Capitol building when all that was going on with them.
Embedded in the shit.
And talked about how the white police officers who were not attacked were actually like ushers showing everybody around the congressional offices. Yeah.
Hey man, but you know, it was a protest.
Oh yeah. Protest. They were wearing war paint, all types of shit.
That was a hell of a workout, huh?
Hey man, you know how we do it though, man. Well, you know, all in all, once again, you got clowns out here running around thinking that the influence that, well, they know Steve Harvey knows the influences he has will have an effect on some Black Americans. But those of us who still have a brain in our head, tell Steve Harvey to shut up and get rid of that little weak ass mustache. And
Joe, Steve Harvey mustache is not weak, bro.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You know, study all the candidates. Once again, study all the candidates, learn everything that's going on, make the best decision. Because if not, then you're not helping. Just know that you're not helping. And remember, voting will not get you reparations. And you know, maybe next week we talk about Project 2025, what the Republicans want to roll out. So you know, Pat made me think about that you'll take a lessons from the screen angle. Look at Project 2025. So yeah. If you don't know what it is, look it up. So Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, FetLife Station, 2 p.m. right after this. You know, the link is in the description. Thepax.org. Make sure you check it out. Everything we've got going on, check out my website. All that is in the description. And we'll catch y'all on the other side. Peace and the ball of hat grease.